Welcome, 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 welcome to your reading. Let's first start off by showing my Cattern shirt. And now, let me just set the timer. Okie dokie. I know I'm speaking in this accent, but I'm not going to keep it up. All right. Actually, no, I can just set it on my computer. It's way better. Okay, over here. Clock. Stop. Reset. Go. Okay. So. Let's go ahead and full screen. No, not full screen this. Okay, so let's get the chart ready. I need to make sure that your last name is hidden, which it was not. Bad Jesse. But actually not Bad Jesse because I haven't shown anything or shown it yet. So Lizette V, we'll say. We'll delete the last one. Okay, let's go ahead and share my screen and see your charts. So, Lizette. Wait 1 second. This looks way too familiar. I have this really trippy thing where I have like back-to-back charts. I swear, it sounds crazy, but it's true. Where like they're just so fucking similar. And I swear, 1 second, I'm gonna unshare my screen. I just want to make sure I don't have like the wrong time in or something. Because this is too suspicious, but I don't think that okay, so 11, 1453. I just had someone like the last chart I did, if I could find it. One of the last charts. Yeah, I just had someone who's born in California, so different time, who had also a Sag stellium in the first house, a Leo Mars, and a Scorpio Moon in the 12th house. I'm going to share just to show how crazy that is. This happens all the time. And don't worry, there's no name shown. So this is not your chart. This is the other person's chart. You see all this Sagittarius energy in the first house. You see this Mars here. It is retrograde, and the Moon in Scorpio in the 12th house, and probably some other stuff I'm not looking at. In your chart, Sagittarius, all these planets in Sagittarius, Moon in the 12th house, Mars up here in Leo. Like what? This is crazy. Like this is insane. So anyways, let's get to it. So, okay. Well, this is not, so I believe in these being synchronicities. And basically, 1 sec, I have to find something really quickly. Basically, like, I believe that I karmically get these similar charts. I karmically get these similar charts because I don't know why. I really, really don't know. It kind of blows my mind, and it's happened my whole career. All right, let me just get some of this matcha in here. Give me a little boost of energy. Okay. And let's go ahead and dive right in. So, okay. So we're still sharing. So, with this chart, obviously, I just had a chart that's very similar a few days ago. Moon Scorpio in the 12th house. So the first question is, what's the relationship between the sun and the moon? The two most important parts of the chart. What is the relationship? How do they get along or not get along? Well, we got the sun here in, you got retrograde Mercury. Very interesting. So I have to pull up some stuff from my phone. I've been doing so much research. I think you probably follow me on Instagram. I would guess most of my clients are from Instagram. But I have been going insane with the amount of research and the amount of like articles I'm writing. And I have one. I need to pull it up So it's ready for the Mercury retrograde, the karmic, like what that means karmically. Okay, so I'll just leave this up. But anyways, so okay, so Moon in Scorpio, Sun in Virgo. So these are the sextile between these two, which means that they're energies that get along very well. Moon sextile Sun is one of the most fortunate aspects in astrology, and the reason is because the Sun and the Moon is your yin yang. So if you have, for example, your Sun squaring your Moon or opposite your Moon, you might feel like you're two different people going two different directions. But when there's a sextile, it means that the masculine, kind of like the soul, your soul purpose, the Sun is like your sun, right? If you're a solar system, the Sun is the sun, right? It's like, at the middle of everything. It's the core essence of who you are. It's like very identity based. And then the Moon represents your emotions. It's just as important, if not more important than the Sun, especially when it comes to happiness. Like the Sun is very purpose driven. The Moon is very comfort and security driven and feminine. So you can't really be happy or feel secure without following what your moon sign says. So this sextile, so Sun and Virgo, I don't go into sun signs. I'm sorry, I just don't do it. I mean, I always say I don't do it and then I do it, but like it's just like everyone knows their sun sign, like everyone knows their sun sign. It's not a big surprise. And basically, yeah. But Virgo, obviously, in the 10th house, it's going to be very dependent. It's in the house of Capricorn, so there's going to be a mega emphasis on success, worldly success, getting things done the right way. And I imagine that there's definitely like kind of a boss energy, especially with Pluto conjunct your midheaven in Libra. So and Saturn is not so far away. So that's literally saying that you're really, really here to really shake things up in terms of your dharma. It's not just career, it's your dharma, which is like what you're here to do on a public level, on a big, large picture level, right? So that's what the Virgo is kind of there in the 10th house. With Mercury also there 8 degrees away, which is very normal. Mercury doesn't go further than 60 degrees away from the sun. But to add to this, so the Virgo is very dependable. So some Virgos, you know all about it. It can be over analytical, but they're very, to me, it's about like earth magic. Is like the highest energy of Virgo is like purity, but they have to. I just made a post about perfectionism, right? And you have like a lot of you have a lot of Virgo, and it's in the house of Capricorn. So I would suggest, if you haven't read that post, reading that post. Like I talked about like indicators in a chart of perfectionism. And the thing with Virgo is that Virgo has such high expectations for themselves, and they, an unevolved Virgo or a Virgo that gets trapped in that kind of like OCD. I don't even know how you describe it. Like just gets trapped in that Virgo-ness, right? Of just everything has to be at this impossible ideal, right? They set themselves up for failure. So it's super important when you're a Virgo to learn self-compassion and self-love. Also, like meditation is really powerful for Virgos. It's a very spiritual sign. It's the opposite sign of Pisces, right? And so yeah. And what did I say? What degrees was it? 22. Yeah. So actually, this is so ironic because I just created a post about, I don't know what you do for a living, about like degrees that fall on stars that make people astrologers, and your midheaven, which has to do with career, falls literally right on Denebola, which is connected to astrology. So maybe there's something, with astrology. We'll see what the rest of the chart says. But there's definitely, a liking to it. So with Virgo, dependable, typically very loyal. They are people you can depend on. They are very task oriented. They're very in touch with their routine and what makes things tick in their daily lives. So you're someone who's very successful. You're someone who has potential, let's just say, for success. And the house of your sun, right, in the 10th house over here, I'll show my face again. Okay, there I am. So the house of your sun is really, really important. It almost, so it's like it kind of gives you like Virgo / Capricorn, because this is the 10th house of Capricorn. So these two, they work really, really well together. And yeah, you're like really here to make a mark on the world through your profession. And a lot of times people that have this, they'll like be born to like parents with good standing, or like they'll have like some type of like social advantage. Not all the time, but yeah. So Virgo, and I'm not gonna say much more about Virgo, but just like the thing to watch out for, and very organized, very, very like smart, with that Virgo Mercury. But they can be a little bit OCD and a little bit too focused on the details and like the little tiny things. And when we talk about manifestation, someone was just telling me the other day how like a professional was telling me like how like, well, a client of mine actually through a professional like was talking to this like really big manifestation coach. And they're basically saying that like the reason that she was failing at manifesting was because she kept worrying about the little things, the how she's going to get to that place. So that's how where Virgo, like the little details, like how am I going to do this? Like what, like how's it going to work? Blah, blah, blah. Virgo has to learn from Pisces, its opposite sign. Every sign learns from its opposite sign, to let go and to trust the universe, and to let the details, let go of the details, and understand that you are very good. I said this in my post. I'll say it again to every Virgo person I get. Judge your day each day on a scale of 0 to 100, or try not to be judgy, but like just if naturally that's how it's going to be. If there's just for the sake of this metaphor, there's, oh my God, my cat. There's days that you'll only be able to be 60. There's days where you'll be 40. There's days where you'll be 120. It's all about having self-love and self-compassion and self-acceptance for you on any of those days. That is what is so important. So just like, and also having a sense of humor about stuff and not taking things too seriously. Like lots of people with these placements, like they see themselves as like down here and other people as up here, when really it's the opposite. And what can be annoying with Virgo, if it's unevolved, is that like they notice, they're so observant physically, they notice so much that they can they can be sometimes flow killers that like are like naggy and just like notice all the negative things and then tell other people about their own negative shit when they don't really want to hear it. So that's to be avoided with Virgo. But you are, you have passed your Saturn return, which means that you've entered, you're well into adulthood, which means that you've probably matured and gotten a lot better in a lot of these areas. And be curious, you do have a follow-up, I believe. I'll have to check, but make sure you're taking notes or mental notes or whatever works for you. I imagine as a Virgo Mercury, you're taking notes, but it is a retrograde Mercury. To really remind me of what we talked about, because I don't remember anything. I do a lot of readings, so I kind of channel. I was told by a psychic that when I do readings, I channel, which makes sense because I literally don't remember anything after a reading. Like you could like quiz me on it, I wouldn't remember even the sun sign and the moon sign. Maybe the moon sign, maybe those two things. But like literally, like it just all goes away. I'm like in a channel mode right now. It's kind of crazy to think about. Flow state, more like a flow state, whatever, same thing. So, okay. So then sun in Virgo, right? So we understand that, you understand that. How does it work with moon in Scorpio? Well, moon in Scorpio is very analytical, right? So they're both very analytical. So you're someone who's really, really capable. But the thing with the moon in the 12th house is that it represents like issues with the mother most of the time, right? I know several people who have 12th house moon and they have like big time issues with the mother. It's in Scorpio, so perhaps the mother was like overly domineering, overly protective, maybe very, very strict, or just something like very intense, like maybe like psychologically manipulative, stuff like that. There can be difficult karma with the mother. And it can lead to a distrust in woman. And but overall, like Moon in Scorpio is a very, 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 like it's the recluse, it's a person like you need alone time more than the average person. Like you really like basically like you need to like go into your own little world and reset. So this is like the Virgo can really help you with this, because being a Virgo, you're really good at analyzing and understanding like if there's a problem, like how to fix it, right? It's a fixer energy. So with Scorpio Moon, it's very analytical, and it's all about this like real deep psychological, spiritual, energetic, and emotional death, rebirths, and transformations that you go through in your life. Like it is a very intense placement. And to have it in the 12th house like you do means that you're like completely connected to the collective energy and to the energy of people around you. So you're an empath, you're a sponge for energy. I need to get this other chart show, or this other thing showing really quickly. Okay. So I have all the aspects. So and it's square Venus, square Mars. So yeah, basically like you just have to watch out for what is it, a T square? No, it's square in those two. So I'll talk about the aspects a little bit later, but like really big picture, you're a very private person, very, very private, interested in the occult, the esoteric, maybe something like psychology, any career for you that involves, and which, like I said, the career is very, very important for you. And also like traveling and finding wisdom is very important, which we'll get to next with the Sagittarius energy and the 9th house energy. But like anything that gets you further in touch with your inner self. So like, or with like you could also be really, really interested. Like you could be someone who's like studying like the undergrounds of society, or you're probably like a really big truther potentially, right? Like someone who's really, really just like looking for truth and really trying to find it. Not, oh wow, and once again, just a really quick break. This is I don't know, for anyone who watches my readings, this is magic in astrology, is that this has to be like the millionth client in a row. There's always a connection between your chart, like the client charts, like your chart in situation, Lizette, and my chart. Your south node is exactly my moon, which means that we have some past life knowledge, which also brings me to something I want you to message me about. It's a invitation to something, a group that it's very private and that I only let certain people join. And because I just saw this, I kind of feel like talking to you about that. No pressure. Just message me on Instagram at Jesse Innocent Astro. I'm guessing that you found me on there. I'm pretty sure it's obvious that you found me on there, because I think you messaged me about, yeah, you did, because you messaged me because I was doing that deal. So anyways, so yeah, Scorpio moons, they need, so I always talk about like romance too, like my readings are very psychological and karmic. So Scorpio moons, they need to have like someone around them that's like their rock, someone that they can like be their complete self around, someone who they can express all their emotions, because it's going to be very up and down for you emotionally. It's a lot harder early in life, which can bring up a lot of difficult situations, especially in relationships, which brings me to your square of the moon and your Venus and Mars conjunction in Leo, which we'll talk about a little bit. But basically there's this big tension where there's a part of you that like needs to have alone time, and that's very, very introverted. And then there's also this part of you that wants to kind of go out and be very assertive and be like this real boss, which is like in your chart, right? This Leo like person that shines bright and that makes a difference in the world. But then you always, because the moon in Scorpio could be very easily ignored here. So this is the difficult part of your chart, is that you have all these very social energies. And I'm including the Virgo in the 10th house as a social energy, because even though Virgos can be introverted, it's in the house of Capricorn, of public. So you're meant to really make a difference in the public. And pretty much every energy in your chart is fucking extroverted, excuse me. But your moon in Scorpio is so introverted, it might be the most introverted placement possible in astrology, one of them, that you can't forget about that. This is like the huge psychological key of your chart, is that you need alone time to reset. If you're around people too much, like let's say you're like a work conference or, a weekend out, or, you're in some social situation that's extended where you don't have your nest, your cocoon, your place to go back to, your bed, I don't know if you have animals. Lots of Virgos really love animals. I imagine you probably do too, if you're not too busy with whatever your career is. And basically, like, you absolutely need that. You need that alone time. If you don't get it, like, you start to kind of feel. What was that noise? My cat's going wild. What are you guys doing? They're so funny. I literally have no idea what that noise is. Mika, and they're like staring at me, like all three of them from different directions. So funny. But yeah, so like the moon sign. They made me lose my train of thought. Come here, Mika. The moon sign, like, essentially here, what was I just saying? Like, yeah, so it's like it can be very easily overlooked. I'll backtrack and then I'll find where it was. It can be very easily overlooked because it's the moon is the unconscious. It's like what's unknown. It's like what's not seen. So it's like people, like with charts like yours, they might just ignore that. And, oh yeah, okay, now I remember, and get themselves in situations where they're like overly extended socially, and then they're starting to feel their own emotions meld in with the emotions of other people. They start to think, oh, they start to like get really confused and not know what's theirs. Also, you have to really watch out for like shame and different like negative emotions that aren't yours, especially when it has to do with your fucking mother. I'm assuming that the moon is your mother in your chart. It's the least dominant parent. I really have the intuition it's your mother. Relationships, you have to watch out for energy vampires too, and just in general for people that might seem like they have good intentions but really don't. Which, like, in a 10th house sun chart, you're going to be put in lots of situations like that, right? So it's really important for you. Relationships are very, very important, like romantic and like relationships and partnerships, like business partnerships or anything that's one-on-one, like on that level, are super important for you in this lifetime to get them right. But like one big key is like to understand that you have these two parts, right? And one of these parts, it shouldn't even have to be explained. Just like lots of mood swings, lots of really intense emotional nature. And yeah, like it has its gifts. Like for example, like you're very, like, you should be like really paying attention to your dreams, because you're really going to have like dreams that are very intense. But with this said, you might until you're around 30 years old have feared your own powers, because it's so hidden, this Scorpio moon, which is like this witch energy. But with Saturn there, that can create, I wrote about that the other day too, that can create all kinds of like hidden phobias, like a fear of the unknown, a fear of whatever forces are unseen, like ghosts or spirits or anything like that, right? There can be a big fear in regards to that. So it's really important to kind of like a big download I'm getting from your chart is like developing a sense of humor, and having a sense of humor about life is super important, because Scorpio can be really overly serious, and Virgo can too. Leo, on the other hand, no. So that's probably a really big part. And so it's same with Sagittarius, your rising sign. So yeah, that kind of pushes some of that away. But that's just like the overall gist of the moon in the 12th and the sun in 10th. Like this balance between alone time and then like killing it in career and dharma time. But just to know that you can't really have one without the other. Like if you're like, so it's finding that balance. So and I'm curious, make sure you write that down for a follow-up to see where we're at. And just so you know, like when I say career, I'm not expecting you to be CEO of like Bank of America. I don't know why I said that. Like it's outer life. It's like there's a big impetus in terms of like for example, Vladimir Putin, he has his Pluto. That's a random example. I just saw his chart. He has his Pluto on the midheaven. Lots of like people who are like really, making a difference on the public level have it there, but they have to go through lots of trials and tribulations, and they meet their own shadow in that area of life, right? The outer external life, but at the same time, it's a place where they can have the greatest potential power, the greatest potential like what they leave, like legacy and stuff. So very important stuff. Okay, so then your chart ruler is Jupiter, which is rising, which is unbelievable in the whole sign system. I'll show the chart again. I'll go back and forth. So in essence, basically Sag rising people, it's very outgoing energy. It's an energy that is your life is like this big adventure, right? You're here to really you're on this quest for truth. And it makes you a big traveler or someone that wants to really, really travel. And one second. Okay. Yeah. So also it makes you very lucky when you take risks. When you take calculated risks, which I literally just wrote my my write-up for the solar eclipse next Saturday, the 30th, and I was talking about taking risks. So when you take risks, healthy risks, you get rewarded, right? So that's kind of the essence of this, is that by being a Jupiterian, having this Jupiter energy, I wouldn't call you a Jupiterian, but you basically are wanting to like meet lots of different types of people. It's definitely, so like, even though you have these other energies, it is quite extrovert to be a Sag moon. A loving really long and deep conversations, especially with your Mercury in which we'll get to, your Mercury, which is retrograde in Virgo, which is super interesting. But basically, like you can really you really love to think, and you're really analyzing like what your thought process is. In this lifetime, you're really meant to kind of like look at your own thought process and your own communication style and question it. And the fact that you have Venus and Mercury retrograde is very interesting. But I've already linked it in my head with the Venus part, which is the love part. Which, stay tuned. So basically, yeah, with this Sag energy, it's just like, yeah, it's the person who's the adventurer, who goes from life experience to life experience. Yeah, from life experience to life experience. They want to meet different people from different cultures. They want to really like be in touch with what's going on, because their big goal is to collect this different information. That's more Gemini, the collection, but just like to create this massive like book of your life. So it's like the gypsy that turns into the teacher. I say this in all of my readings. The gypsy that turns into the philosopher that turns into the teacher. It's very philosophical. So I have Jupiter in the first house is very, very good for your body. It's very good for health astrology. And it just overall gives you luck. What can you say? It also gives you a very optimistic and so even though you do have the Scorpio Moon, which is so different than the rest of your chart and so karmic, like there's this part of you that is very, very like this is a totem of someone who's very popular. And in a coach house, this would be in the 12th house of Jupiter. So this would be potential for psychic abilities, potential for like having like this spiritual and I see this too with the moon there, like spiritual protection and stuff like that. So yeah, but in terms of your first house, the way I do astrology is whole signs. Jupiter is giving you this luck, this popularity, this real expansion to your outer, to how you express yourself in the world, and it really draws people to you. And yeah, really, like I said, really, really good for the body. It's in dignity in Sagittarius. So that means you're like a natural teacher. And it's conjunct Uranus. So you were born on the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, which basically the fact that you have them both rising or in the first house, not rising, on the first house, is saying that this, like Uranus is this rebellious energy and Jupiter makes everything bigger. So you're meant to be like someone who's like in some way, shape or form, like a teacher of your kind of like maybe eccentric, just like different life philosophies, right? If that makes sense. So you have these like different life philosophies, right? and that are, let's say that they're deviating from the mainstream, and you're really meant to kind of like teach people about them in some type of way. It might not be your job, but you are naturally gifted at that. Which, when I say naturally gifted, guess what? Your South Node is also right there. South Node is a part of your chart that has to do with your past life tendency, the been there, done that. It's conjunct Neptune, and it's in Sagittarius on my moon. So what does that mean? Well, you're a past life mystic. You Neptune there, you're someone who, where's your Jupiter? Yeah. So you're someone who is so confident when it comes to things like philosophy, seeing the big picture, and you're really, 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 really trying to, in this lifetime, take a lot of this because you spent a lot of time in past lives like pondering. Maybe you were like a monk or something, or a religious figure, very close to God, right? So you have this like innate understanding of the other side of the spiritual realms. It's quite possible that you have direct experiences with them. And so South Node conjunct, all in this first house is very interesting. But the fact that your ascendant's at 27 degrees Sagittarius means that the only planet that's actually rising is Neptune. So yes, you're a Sag rising, but Neptune makes you kind of like a Sag/Pisces rising. So that usually gives very beautiful eyes. It gives a very like just loving and compassionate nature. I would be extremely surprised if you had problems with, you do have Pluto in the 11th house, so we'll have to talk about that. So there might be some, but I just can't imagine you being someone who has issues like fitting in and meeting people and working socially in this world. I just can't imagine that. So yeah. Aside from that, like Neptune rising, with the South Node there, it's like you're bringing in lots of mystical, occult, esoteric, intuitive like powers from your past life. And believe it or not, I see this a lot with my clients that have South Node conjunct Neptune. Coincidence? I don't think so, because you guys are, came into this life and you knew nothing about astrology, you knew nothing about the occult, esoteric, but you were somehow initiated and drawn to it. Like, what are the fucking odds, right? It's meant to be. So yeah, with the ascendant, in Sag, am I sharing right now? No. Okay. Like I said, life is like this big grand adventure. And it's active. It's all about lessons and kind-hearted, funny, like definitely funny. This definitely helps with a sense of humor and very this is it. You're very, very inspirational. Like you have this really amazing inspirational energy. Now, the thing is that in past lives, you've sort of used it for yourself, not necessarily in a selfish way. Let's see if there's any of these squares, which, square the sun and a Mercury. And oh, wow. Okay. So interesting. So you, in past lives, we'll talk about that, the skip step part. But basically, like, there was in some way a skipped step in past lives around communication in the correct way of talking and thinking, which is why you have Mercury retrograde in this life. And I'll get that a little bit. And then with the sun, actually, let's just go there right now. I'll never remember for the life of me what page it is. Okay. So the skip step, right? So the sun as a skip step indicates the essential part of the current life energy and purpose is to resolve the issues symbolized by the square between Virgo and Sagittarius. Mika, you have to move. This is reading time. Okay, so it's to resolve the issues symbolized by the square to the nodal axis through house and sign and through the node it resolved through. So this placement indicates the current life as the critical one for the resolution of their unresolved material. This material is experienced in this life as part of the core nature of the individuality and sense of personal meaning. This placement has echoes of the symbolism of the hero's journey, Joseph Campbell, the hero with 1,000 faces, and can involve the individual having to create or maintain a personal vision in isolation or in conflict with others around them in their life. I'll repeat that. It can involve the individual having to create or maintain a personal vision that is in isolation or in conflict with others around them in their life, which I've heard from so many people, especially with the politics. As such, it represents a challenge to individuate. So that's a huge thing, that in past lives, maybe there was like a holding back of this individualization process, at least, publicly. So with the Mercury one, what it says is when Mercury squares the moon's nodes, we're alerted to the possibility of unresolved issues in the mental life of the individual. This can include overly rigid thinking, which you're Virgo, so it's like, over analyzing, being too in your head, ruminating, or excessively restless curiosity that lacks discrimination as to the kind of material the mind is taking on board. This placement may represent an issue with internalized messages or introjects of a critical nature that undermine. So like, this is like I was saying, like Virgo can be so overly critical. So it's so important for you to like I say this in a lot of my readings. I kind of talk about like the other services I do. I do astrological counseling, and this is like a mix of like my 2 master's degrees in psychology with my professional astrology. And what I would definitely talk about is this Mercury retrograde, like because there can be like lots of like self-limiting beliefs and lots of parts work that could be need to be done. So this placement will represent an issue with internalized messages or introjects of a critical nature that undermine the strength of the personality. Such internalized guilt, emphasized in the 6th house Virgo archetype, can become the basis for internal shame and or masochistic tendency. This placement may indicate a range of communication issues. For example, an issue with trusting the opinions of others. Very true. Like Virgos, like sometimes they can really have trouble like allowing someone else's system. Like they have their own system, and it's like it can be very hard. Even though it's a mutable sign, they can get angry when that gets broken. So opinion of others. So for example, with trusting the opinion of others, lies or conflicting views as to the nature of the truth may have had profound consequences in prior lives. So that's what I was thinking in my head. Lies or conflicting views as to the nature of the truth may have had profound consequences in prior lives. So I think you were like a witch. I'm getting witch hunt vibes. Like where, or like something where you had to like, you had this like this inner mysticism, but you had to like hide it in this life. It's all in the 1st house. You live in a world where you're allowed to express this. So the 1st house is your identity. So it's like a huge part of your identity is this expression of this energy that's held back in a past life, and it held your ego back and your sense of identity back, right? So that's very interesting. So yeah, I'd imagine that your career would really have to have a certain depth, a real depth to it. I mentioned the astrologer thing before. Who knows? But like something of that sort, psychology, who knows? Scorpio moons are natural psychologists. They just, and having your moon in the 12th house, being of service is like literally like the antidote to some of the negative issues with that. But yeah, like, yeah, definitely. So, also like, yeah, watching out for people pleasing too is something I just came to me. So with we'll talk more about those. So, okay, let's look at aspects. So Venus square, or the moon, we talked about the moon squaring the Venus and Mars, and how, you have this like your assertiveness function, which I'll talk about, and you're kind of like what you value and how you value yourself is at odds with that Scorpio moon. The Scorpio moon just makes things very complicated because it's so different than the rest of your chart. That's kind of what that is. Sun, here, it's an aspect of your sun. Well, actually, no, it's conjunct Mercury, which is extremely common. It's actually like combust. So yeah, I'm not going to go into that though. So okay, Mercury. Okay, so this is what gets really interesting is your Mercury. It's square Neptune, which I have very direct experience with, and square the nodes. So okay, in a past life, we already talked about that. But there's something like where you were held back. You were either like too like wrong in what you were saying, or you were forced to hold back, which I'm getting more of the second one because you had Neptune. Well, but then this is the other thing about Neptune conjunct your South Node. Neptune can be high spirituality, but it can also be someone that was completely disillusioned. So it's one of the two, right? So either you were like completely disillusioned and speaking out of that disillusionment, out of that confusion, and it can also be like, substances and addictions and stuff like that, right? Or it's that high mystical power. But either way, like you either underuse or overuse your communication in that lifetime. And in this lifetime, it's about like spending the first 30 years really analyzing like, how do I think, how do I communicate, right? What's the right way to do it? How do I want to come across? But with that in Virgo, it can make it very, very, very how do you say it? Like it can be very, very stressful. I want to find this post. So give me one moment, please. It's very recent. Also, I ran into Jupiter in the first house. Why not give you a little Jupiter in the first house? So this gives beauty and attractiveness, very good for physical health. You can be very lucky and narrowly escape tense situations. You present a jovial, kind, altruistic manner to the world around you, generally beginning any new undertaking with optimism and faith. Your belief in the power of positive thinking, where I just go, what the fuck? Takes you places. Yeah. Physically and metaphorically. Generally speaking, you are a very principled person with strong morals. Watch out for overconfidence and even arrogance. A great teacher, and you're not going to have arrogance being a Virgo. It's a very humble sign, and Scorpio Moon is very realistic. Great teacher and leadership potential, very independent, and you influence those around you more than you might realize. That's a huge point. I'm so happy I read that for that last part. You influence others around you more than you realize. You're an inspirational person, and you're here to you have this natural ability to inspire people spiritually. But it's about, okay, now I'm getting it. It's about finding your voice, because your voice is so powerful. It's been pushed back in past lives, and in this life, it was probably mimicked by the mother or whatever the moon represents, right? So, I'm seeing this. Oh, it's so beautiful, astrology. It's like how clearly I see it. So then your Venus and your Mars are trine your South Node, your South Node in sextile your North Node. What does that mean? Well, that means that these other parts of you, right? That's like that Leo part of you, like that's what you're really trying to find, which is your inner child. And that has always existed. And that in the past lives was an asset. You always had that. You always had that, but then the Venus stuff, especially the Mars, Venus is retrograde. We're gonna have to talk about that a little bit differently. But it's basically saying that like it's this Mercury and this Venus, Mercury and the Sun that was the difficulty. And I think you were silenced or something. You were silenced. You weren't able to express yourself, which is horrible. And I see it a lot with clients. You're not the first one. Okay, I found one of the posts, but not the most important one, about Mercury, Venus, Mars, which go from a very karmic perspective. Okay. And I want to check one other thing because it's 21. Ooh, so you're lucky because one of the most unfortunate fixed stars is called Serpentis, and it's at 19 Scorpio. You're at 21 Scorpio. Let me see like what they say the orb is. So you're just like right, just good from being Serpentis. That creates that can like create like an evil energy. One sec. Let's see if I can even. One second. It says here it's at 22. Which is literally your moon. So let's go into this. It can be bold, cruel, heartless, gives immorality, accents. Okay, but at the moon, this is a very difficult part of the Scorpio. But remember, everything can be worked through in astrology, right? So it says moon conjunct this, clever, evil environment, hatred of authority, involved in intrigues and plots, banished, imprisoned, or hanged for crime, probably by poisoning. See, I'm still working on understanding on the fixed stars. I'm just like really starting this. So basically, like serpents, I need to find a better information. It's like Saturn and Mars. It's said to give wisdom, craft, deceit, malice, and feeble anger and poison. Okay, so Saturn and Mars. So one second. So actually, it's important to know. For Saturn, so you're born during the day. So Saturn is the day. Saturn, Jupiter's day. Bad is Venus and Mars. So okay, so let's see where Venus. So yeah, your Venus and Mars are strongly placed. So that's not bad. And then good Saturn, Jupiter. Saturn's in the 12th house too. Jupiter's really strongly placed though. So yeah, but basically like that's just something we definitely need to talk about. But I wrote very malevolent. Charles Manson had his son here. This tends to bring the malicious and frictious parts of Scorpio. The low vibe Scorpio can thrive here. People can be very, very fixed in their beliefs when serpentness is highlighted. But with that said, everything is meant to be worked through. And I believe that this could also be a reflection of the mother or whatever that nurturing was, the early nurturing. Let's see. Or so it says, he who holds a serpent, and that is how he is depicted. The struggle will last forever since they wage it on equal terms with equal power. Okay. I'm trying to find. Yeah, so it comes down to power and powerlessness and surrender. But yeah, that can be a very difficult Scorpio moon. And I definitely want to talk to you about it and see like what you resonate with, because because you were born in 83. Look, I need to be sure. I need to see where it was in 83, because it barely moves. But I had it as 19 degrees. So this is why I'm confused. And it's called Unu Kalai. So yeah. Very interesting. But also, okay, there's some good parts to it. The neck, so it's the neck of the snake. So the neck rather than the head is where the snake has its brain. It's the seat of knowledge. So this star is all about knowledge that the good doctor has won from his labors. That knowledge of where we came from, what we are, where we are going, what holds us back, what to do about healing it. This star does in some measure merit the black reputation it has gained from the debasers of astrology, for those who will abuse and misuse the gifts available here as deserving of being struck off the register as any corrupt doctor. So you see, it's like great power and great responsibility. But those who will give service. Okay, so for you, Boom. That's the fucking thing. You have to be of service to push away some of the negative effects of this. But to those who will give service in healing or teaching of what they receive, have only good fortune to expect when Unu Kalai shines on them. This half of the snake, by the way, to the man's left is now called Serpent Caput, head side of the snake, counted a different constellation, blah, blah, blah. So you see, it also says it's really dangerous and destructive. And there can be accidents. It can be evil mischief maker. Yeah. But like I said, this is like just further proof that you're here to be of service and to really like to have your career and what you're doing, your dharma really reflect and to take a lot of this inspiration. It's not saying you're evil or that there's anything like inherently wrong with you. It's saying that this is a tough degree of Capricorn to have, right? All right, excuse me, of Scorpio to have in the 12th house. And I have a big feeling that has a lot to do with the mother. Big feeling. So we'll definitely talk about that in the follow-up. Make a note of that. Okay, moving on. So yeah, and I was gonna talk about the Mercury. So with the Mercury, which is, your chart is so interesting, by the way. With the Mercury, where is that post? In retrograde, like, there can be that rumination. It's square Neptune though. So it's square Neptune, square the node. So the square of Neptune is exact degree, which means that people who have that they can have a really distorted view of reality. They can have this like almost this paranoia where, like, I know someone, I'm very close to someone with it, and my other client that had a similar chart as you had this too, where like I'll be walking with this friend and they will think like we're just walking and like they'll like someone else will be laughing around us and they'll instantly think that person's laughing at them. Like they'll have like this distorted view of reality and not see things like clearly, in a sense, right? And it's almost like that's kind of and also like it has to do with having like a very different learning style. So like a lot of times people that have this, especially with the square of Neptune, they can have like a wrong idea of their own intelligence and sometimes think that they're, especially when young, that they were like less intelligent than they are. And especially when you're a Virgo, which is all about that 0, 100, it can really bring a lot of shame. And then when you have that Scorpio moon, you can have this, you have to really look out for undeserved guilt and undeserved shame. So super fucking important. Okay, I found the fucking thing. Excuse my language. So because you have a retrograde, which is so rare. It's like 8 or 10% of the population have this, so it's very rare. Actually, what's the real figure? Is it 20% or 10%? So basically, when it 25%. Wow. Okay. But Venus retrograde, I think, is like 8%. It's really rare. I think it's 20%. I think 25 is wrong. So only 7% of people have Venus retrograde, and like 20 or 25% have Mercury retrograde. But like, people who have outer planets retrograde, it's way more common. It could be like 40 or 50%. So this is very rare and it's very karmic. So let's start with with the Mercury, and then we'll move on to the kind of love stuff and self-love and all that. So when you have your natal Mercury RX, I'm reading from what I wrote. I wrote around 80% of people have Mercury retrograde natally and 8% Venus. So those are the facts. It's not some karmic punishment, by the way. But it's like where there's some like either overuse or underuse of the planet in past lives, and you've reached a evolutionary point in your soul's development to develop a deeper internal understanding and strength of the traits associated with the retrograde planet. So when you have it with Mercury, you may have lessons to learn related to thinking, communication, and the mind. Overall, these people tend to become very philosophical and can spend a lot of time in their own heads, especially with the Virgo. Sometimes it's difficult for them to learn, especially when young, in a standardized way, and they may require a specialized type of schooling. And I am not saying they are not smart. It's far from the truth. Many geniuses have retrograde planets or Mercuries. They are just smart in a different way a lot of times. They can be shy and see things more abstractly. The child with Mercury retrograde is likely to be made to feel and told that he or she is less intelligent than she really is. This child's learning process is different, not less intelligent. I must also say that it also matters what sign the house is, blah, 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 and the key aspects, blah, blah. This process turns the mind inward and the communication inward, giving a tendency to repeatedly go back over prior events and lessons, which it's so common with Virgo. The thought process is based in the subconscious rather than the conscious mind. This means the learning process is more right-brained than left-brained. You absorb the essence rather than the details, which kind of makes it feel almost like its opposite sign, Mercury in Pisces. For this reason, you are likely to score lower on standardized tests or fact-oriented tests than those students not having this. But also the Mercury retrograde individual is capable of tapping into the collective unconscious and of perceiving knowledge from prior times. This gets really interesting. This process is unconscious because this process is unconscious. Because you know more than you can consciously communicate, frustration may set in. You may become preoccupied with the form of your ideas, creating barriers to the essence of your knowledge, right? So it's like you have this knowledge, this understanding, like but you might not have all the evidence or the little things to explain it all. So creative outlets that require nonverbal communication, such as music and painting, are super important. Many of our musical geniuses have Mercury retrograde. History is also a natural outlet. In relationships, there can be a tendency to react to others as if they symbolize persons from past lives. So interesting, right? It is sort of trippy for me because, okay, yeah, never mind. That's my own personal stuff. But I was talking about how my brother has this, and I often feel like he's talking to a past life version of me, because he sees me I feel like he sees me so much differently than everyone else in the world does. Yeah. And even more, there's so much. Okay, I want to kind of skim this. There's so much past life energy for people born with this, with this a challenge to speak from the depths of one's being. So it's that throat chakra, connecting the heart to the throat and speaking truth, which I get in so many of my clients. This is to overcome lives of having to hide their true thoughts, like I said before, leading to a painful disconnection. There are gifts that come from the struggle to speak in such a wholehearted way. They are learning to reconnect with the authenticity of their own unique ideas and preferences and decision-making tendencies. Because of the necessity of including their emotional component when making decisions, many times these people may exceptional artistic talents. The collage effect of Mercury retrograde makes it hard to see how things will play out. They may see the end before the middle or a vision of what is to come. But if this resonates, try working with rather than against the Mercury retrograde. And I told you before that when it's Mercury retrograde, you feel more normal, things are while everyone else is freaking out. Instead of swimming against the tide, look for mediums where this kind of perception is valued and even rewarded. When you have Mercury retrograde in your natal chart, how it behaves will depend on the element, quality, and what house it's in. People born under water signs, for example, make your mind search for the emotional essence. And I guess for earth signs, it would be really, really looking for the logic in Virgo, at least, in the facts and the observe. So it can make someone really obsessed with the physical observational aspects of things. That's why I know I can give you all this super fucking detailed information, and you're probably going to watch this over many times, take notes. That's what I love. Those are my favorite clients, the ones that I love all my clients. So I love the ones that take the notes and really come prepared to follow up. So you may swim in different channels of the mind. Sometimes it feels like you're speaking another language, and it makes you feel very misunderstood until you learn to translate what you perceive into language others can understand. Interesting. And I'll say the Venus retrograde. So we see that. And then the square with Neptune, is very it makes you just perceive things really differently. So it's really important for you, and this is karmic coming from past lives, and it squares your ascendant too. So it's like, you can have trouble socially potentially through misunderstandings, and through over analysis, and through like thinking something is right, and and then it's just completely wrong. So it's really important to have like very for you, like in terms of partnerships and friends, to have very like logical people with you that you can like literally trust so much too, because it's very hard for like the Scorpio Moon people to trust and to be vulnerable. And you can be like, hey, look, like this is how I'm seeing the situation. I have this like distorted view of sometimes like understanding things, which is just the nature of that. But like how do you see it, and kind of like getting different perspectives. That's so important. But with that said, Mercury and Neptune together creates a fucking like really artistic genius level person potentially, right? Where they have like their access to like the collective unconscious, like you totally have access to that. Okay, moving on. So Venus and Mars are both conjunct in Leo. So when you have Venus and Mars together, that usually creates a very strong sex drive. It creates lots of action oriented. The Venus, the Mars goes on the Venus and gives more of like a kind of like a force to that love language. And then the Venus goes to the Mars and kind of like makes that assertiveness function, which in Leo can be a little bit like very powerful. Like it smoothens it out a little bit. It's just very, very good for like, kind of balance in your life, right? So it's in the 9th house too. So basically, let's talk about love. So you have your 7th house, Gemini, with Chiron on the 7th house cusp and the North Node there. And Venus retrograde. Those are 3 clues that are saying that in past lives and in this life, you're trying to resolve it. There's been a lot of issues with romantic relationships. So the first clue, or there's 4 clues. There's a lot of clues. There's 5. The first is the moon, like the secretive nature, like the emotional ups and downs, like really, really need like to find the correct partner. And maybe because you present in such a different way than your emotional nature is, there can be difficulty because people might not understand you, might feel really, really misunderstood. And then also have lots of issues communicating it, right? So essentially, it's really finding that really deeply empathetic partner. So Chiron is pain. It's spiritual pain. So your pain is in the realm of relationships, right? And your North Node, which is like the mountain never climbed in past lives, like where you're really trying to get, is in the 7th house. So it's literally saying that you're trying to learn to be more relationship oriented, learn to make more sacrifices in your relationships, not codependent shit, but like where you're trying to take all of that Sagittarian wisdom and that Neptunian wisdom from past lives and put that same wisdom into the realm of partnerships. Chiron the 7th, it's just like, you suffer from broken and painful relationships and feelings of rejection from your partners. Not all the time, but in the end, you later in life, and you're born in 83, so probably already like you have a lot of healing that takes place. That's like where your healing takes place in relationships. So Chiron and Gemini, this literally goes back. You see how beautiful astrology is? This literally says like the whole thing about Mercury, where you may have learned earlier not to trust your own brain, not to trust your own thought processes, right? Or fear communicating with others because there was maybe like a communication problem as a child. Like there's maybe a really, really painful early schooling. Right? And Black Moon Lilith's in the 3rd house, so it could indicate that. But yeah, once again, you have the ability to like tap into universal spiritual creative ideas. And you could really be like a teacher for people who go through similar issues, like a relationship coach, right? Because you've probably had to work on it so much, relationship like therapist or something like that, love therapist, who knows? It's really hard to know with the career, but like you do have midheaven in Libra, which Libra literally is the one-on-one therapeutic relation. It's that therapeutic alliance, right? The process of therapy is Libra. but it's also Scorpio, which your moon is. So it's like, you know, so yeah, so that's, and then the fact that you have Venus retrograde is another clue. That means that in a past life, so I'll read, I have one little page of Venus retrograde. So this indicates difficulty in expressing freely your love and affection for others, right? Especially with a Scorpio moon, there's a deep fear of putting yourself out there and being rejected and being hurt because you're so sensitive, you're so empathetic, you're so compassionate, right? So you may feel that you lack emotional fulfillment and tend to interpret life's events through the lens of how much am I loved or deprived of love. So there can be like an obsession, an over-analysis in that realm of love. Emotionally based relationships can be difficult because you tend to internalize and thereby exaggerate hurts. Venus is all about self-love, and only once you love yourself can you truly love someone else. We all know this, but this is even more a challenge for these people, for you with Venus retrograde. Because of this, these people may take the long road when it comes to love, creativity, beauty, pleasure, receiving, peace, and inner harmony. From a karmic perspective, this reveals that your soul carries memories of past life, painful relationships, and a great misunderstanding about the nature of love. The prior life intense emotional pain may result in a present tendency to cut yourself off from fully experiencing the richness of love out of fear of being hurt once more, which totally goes with the Scorpio moon. They will tend to react to the present as if it is the past, thereby pre-programming the present love relationships. They tend to block themselves from happiness by trying too hard to achieve it externally through relationships. Relationships with others, so I said they tend to block themselves from happiness by trying too hard, being too like obsessed with relationships. And like, because you're looking so externally for the happiness, and really it has to be found within. Relationships with others can become an obsession, but it's very uncomfortable feeling to be together with someone who views such. It is very uncomfortable to be in a relationship or have someone like you, or be in a dating process, who views / sees you as their everything or savior. A lot of inner work is needed, but eventually, once the karmic lesson is learned, they may have a long-lasting, perfect relationship. I just add perfect to be nice, and to say that it's everything that in astrology is difficult at the start, can become a superpower. That's the whole point of life, is growth. So astrology is showing you where growth is needed, and like literally, like think about that. The whole point of life is growing, becoming closer to God, becoming more in the image of this divine creation that we can't even fathom in our brains. Our brains are made purposely not to be able to fathom what the divine is. Divine is a word. It doesn't even like come close to doing anything justice, right? It's just divine. It could be any other word, right? So there's so much mystery, but we're really trying to love ourselves, and this is like a huge. It makes it really difficult to love ourselves. We have Venus retrograde. So the over-analysis, so having a sense of humor, but also the creative outlet is so important for you. And that goes to Mars and Venus and Leo. You know, Leo is that inner child. So doing inner child work is extremely important. Write that one down too, because that is your vertex is also there. So like your doorway to higher awareness is through being the inner child. And what I get from you in relationships is that your vertex is Leo. So that's kind of how your ascendant is in relationships. You might actually like in a good relationship, like really like be childish and loving and funny and goofy and all that and let loose. That's the kind of relationship you want. And that's shown further by the fact that you have Gemini. I'm going to share the screen again. Gemini as your descendant, right? Gemini is your 7th house cusp. So it's like, yeah, there's pain. Yeah, there's like really tough spiritual lessons, but Gemini is about fun. It's about movement. It's about, you know, like being very curious. And then when you have Mars in Venus and in Leo, you know, Venus and Leo people, they want to be really proud of their partners. They want to shine bright. They want to create. They want to, you know what I mean? They really, really want to go deep. So you have to really go deep I don't know if it's if it's therapy or some type of healing. You're here to heal 120,000%. And in the 9th house, you might be really attracted to people from different cultures, for sure. And with Mars there's going to be a drive to travel, and also like people of different cultures, but also people of different like worldviews. You're really, really curious because that Sagittarius part, right? So you're really trying to like embed yourself, and through relationships grow and build yourself. And yeah, traveling is a huge thing for you. Huge thing. Different cultures for sure. So Venus, trine Neptune, that is literally the creative genius aspect, right? Because it's 3 degrees away. Neptune is the imagination. So also one thing about Neptune in the first house is that you're trying to replicate your dream life, like whatever your dreams and your intuition is, you're trying to have that be a part of your personality. When you're Neptune rising, like manifesting, like having your dreams reflect your actual personality, the way you look, the way you act, that dream life, that imagination. Like your imagination has to have a physical manifestation, which is so artistic. So many artists have this placement, and to have Venus trine it, that means that you have a connection between the imagination, which is Neptune, like the inspiration, like what gave Van Gogh the idea to paint that amazing painting, and Venus is the actual painting part, the actual brush to canvas, the physical act, right? So Venus and Leo, I'll stop the share now. They love to be loved. And they love creativity within relationships. They love fun within relationships. They take great pride in their partners. A lot of times they value appearance. And they're very proud of their possessions too. And yeah, huge 9th has huge urge to understand the world. And it's very, very good for higher education. So then with Mars there in Leo, there's a strong need to express your personal creativity, right? Like Mars is what pushes you forward. So you're really pushed towards expressing that inner child part of you. And it's not retrograde. Mars for you is actually only positive aspects. So in that case, Mars will actually, it's opposite Black Moon Lilith, but I don't even know how what I would say about Mars opposite Black Moon Lilith. I would say that it's just you have to watch out a lot for acting out the Black Moon Lilith, which we'll talk about. I'll talk about it next, I guess. But yeah, Mars and Leo, it's a very strong placement, and it makes one very regal in their actions, and it gives you this real assertiveness and this real drive to create, which is really important for you. And it's very, very, it's it can be dramatic, but it's very confident. So this is I feel like this Mars is a very strong part of your chart, and it also connects to your first house, connects to your south node. So it's it's trining your south node. So it's this has been a huge asset for you in your past lives. This Leo, this very positive Leo energy, which is it's showing that you can do it. But you've had pain in relationships, and you've had the distortions with the thought process because you were held back. So you're really trying to overcome a lot of really difficult past life karma. But you're trying to be imagine that you were held back from expressing your amazing self. So it's undoing that karma. And then in this life, maybe your mom replicated whatever that force was. God damn. I feel like this is one of my best readings ever. I mean, I don't know. You'll tell me if I'm right about everything, but I just feel everything is connecting. I don't know. I'm a Sagittarius, so I do say best ever a lot, but I mean, I haven't said that probably in about a long time. I've said one of my best. I've said like it's like a very, very good one, but this is like really a special reading. But it's still, there's still so much to it. So yeah, Mars kind of goes unaspected, which means that like, well, yeah, which basically means like an unaspected Mars has this firepower to just kind of go. And that's what I would follow this as kind of a portal, is to follow that Mars in Leo, and to ultimately let that be the thing that leads you to your inner child. 1 second, I need to check something really quick. Okay, very good. Okay, let me open something up. 2 things actually. So yeah, Mars and Leo, that's very charismatic, strong impression on people around you. It's very good for business. Life is an adventure. It makes one like have lots of passions. When you put your mind to something and you start it and you're able to really, really follow through, very good for you know, for stuff like that. And it just gives you lots of passion. So like you're not going to bother with anything that doesn't light your fire. And you're very passionate. You have lots of passions. And it kind of has this like regal energy when it comes to love, right? And very, very good for leadership, we'll say too. You have to watch out to not overdo it and to not be arrogant with that placement. Mars and Leo can be arrogant, but I don't think you have that issue with the other stuff going on in your chart, especially with Moon Scorpio, it's 12th house. So okay, so then Juno, where's Juno, right? Juno is it's like kind of like what we look for in our marriage, like big time marriage partner, right? I'm not married, but my girlfriend, her son, or no, her son, Scorpio, is my Juno. So it's like, it kind of shows, right? So for yours, it's Taurus, which goes so with what I was saying before, because Taurus is the rock. Taurus is that very consistent energy, and you're a Virgo, which is such a natural. Like I have 2 pairs of uncles and aunts that are Virgos married with Tauruses. Like, so you're really looking for someone who's very grounding and who can hold you in these really tough emotional times, these ups and downs of the Scorpio Moon, and who can understand that you need to take time alone and all this stuff I'm telling you in this chart, which is there's a lot. Also like you'll want someone that understands the Virgo-ness that you can like work harmoniously with on a daily basis. Like sharing chores, stuff like that, like the routine. And like really like the biggest thing I can say is like you need to feel safe and secure in your relationships more than anyone, and like know 1000% this person's not going to cheat on me, this person is not going to switch up, like this person like, and yeah, like they need to have like the intellectual connection part, like there has to be that, because Gemini is on the descendant, or so you'll seek out someone who's more fun, who's more intellectual and all that, but also they have to really be reliable and stable. And it can even be like traditional kind of marriage, potentially. So I think this gives you a really good idea of like kind of like the love energy that we're looking for, right? And then of course, with all that Sagittarius energy, it just needs someone who's curious about the world. And like I said, you might be interested in people from a different culture than yours with the 9th house energy, and you really, you might value looks a lot, potentially not saying you're shallow, just that's a tendency of the Venus Leo. So yeah. Okay, moving on. You have to watch out for like financial self-sabotage. Even though your 2nd house is ruled by Capricorn, you still have Saturn in the 12th house. So getting like being of service will help you like financially in that area of life. But overall, you pride yourself on like being like this hard worker and having this practical approach to earning money. It's just like watching out for self-sabotage. And once again, Neptune in the first house also speaks about like this lack of boundaries between others and yourself. So this is like the second time this has been talked about, right? And there can be like some vagueness in your self-expression, but like it's all about creating like a positive fantasy world of your own around you. But like it can be difficult to understand who you really are. But the Virgo actually really helps that. So that's like where like that Mercury thing can be difficult. Uranus, in the first house, a little bit more about that. It just gives you a very eccentric personality with a real urge to like express all the kinks and quirks or whatever you say like about yourself. And then you might have like a very erratic and dynamic fashion style that defies conventions and it makes you very, very original, like externally. And yeah, I talked about Jupiter, how it's about like a large presence, ability to inspire others, natural preacher, teacher. And then Jupiter and Sag, like this love for adventure, philosophy, foreign cultures, and being like a very like inspirational teacher. So third house, ruled by Aquarius, that's like siblings, your early learning environment. We talked about the early learning environment. Well, it has Uranus there. So in Black Moon Lilith, which I said I would talk about, it makes you like interested in unusual topics. And maybe that's what happened when you were younger, is that you were like really interested in different topics than what other people were at a young age. And maybe you got like bullied or had some difficult issues that came with that. And then this is what I really want to know is like, if that did happen, how did your Scorpio Moon conjunct Serpentis respond? Because a lot like usually Scorpio Moon, when it's like growing up and kind of like lower vibe, or just like in its less advanced state, less experienced state, it can be like very manipulative. It can be very like literally evil, and like vengeful and stuff like that. But yeah, curious. My intuition is saying that you've overcome so much. I'm not just saying that to people please. I don't feel this energy, and I feel energies. But I feel it more like it came from someone else. It was implanted in you, and it took you a long time to realize like, oh, this isn't my energy. Hopefully when I keep this wire, it doesn't make noise. I think these headphones have. I did this yesterday and getting complaints. So yeah. So yeah, with the South Node there, I already talked about that. It's like, a quest in this life for right relationships. You need to let go of ego-centered actions and devote your life to others and make sacrifices. And then in Sagittarius, it's about like learning to see life from other people's point of view. And really, really like once again, your North Node's in fucking Gemini. Your Mercury is retrograde. It all connects. Like you're here to work on your communication and become adept in the art of communication. So I could even see you being like a master of communication because you've had to really work on it. And there can be a tendency in past lives to be restless and scattered. And you may have to really develop focus and the ability to really communicate your ideas in a way that really helps many people in your life. So we've already talked about that. And then how those can like translate to relationships, like this communication, this learning how to communicate properly in relationships, Gemini, North Node, 7th house. Like really important stuff. Okay, so then that's so loud. I have complete noise cancellation. I pray that it does on both sides. Because I talked about a lot. So okay, so then Black Moon Lilith, it's in Aquarius, so that it's opposite the Mars and the Venus. To me, that's just saying like you're like to not be your own worst enemy. In Aquarius, it has a lot to do with friendships. Aquarius, Black Moon Lilith. Let me think for a second. So Black Moon Lilith is like the energy that like it doesn't necessarily exist in you. It's just like when you're at your worst, it kind of like it's like what comes out. So in Aquarius, I would think it'd be like a fear of powerlessness, which can like a fear of powerlessness that can lead to isolation. Also like criticism for not being strong enough, hiding weaknesses to the world. Like that's so Scorpio Moon. And there can be like a projection that takes the form of having really strong judgment on people that you deem weak. But ironically, this placement grants a great power that can be used to build people up, but also to crush them, which is so fucking Scorpio Moonish. So the person can either like fear their own powerlessness, or the opposite, they can fear their own power. So like the integration of this comes from like facing yourself truly, facing your shadow, and asking yourself of your use or refusal to use your own power, right? So it's all about practicing self-reinforcement and stop neglecting yourself and building people up every chance you get. That's how I see it. So also, and it's in the third house, so it could talk about siblings potentially, or just it could just be completely based on that like early environment where you maybe had difficult situations. Because you really like to be part of like-minded groups, like-minded people. But you can often feel really rejected. And you might feel like it's the other people doing the rejection, while it's actually the opposite. And this can come from being like really fixed in your ideas and not being flexible and imposing your thoughts and feelings on other people's, like being kind of preachy and expecting them to agree with you, right? And then like any sign of disagree or lack of support, peace out. We're not friends anymore. So it's all about like, also learning to accept the differences in your friends. That's really, really important. And because even if you join a group of people that have similar ideas to you, eventually there's going to be some differences, right? So it's learning to face your own potential intolerance and learning to agree to disagree. So that's like super important. And the fact that okay, so that's that. So then Pisces ruling your part of fortune on your IC, that speaks to me to like I don't know. I mean, like your family roots, like usually that would kind of speak to like a very positive thing for like the unconscious mind, but also the upbringing. But like then I'm getting this Scorpio moon in the 12th house. I'm like, fuck, like what, like how do these two make sense together? But like your joy comes through being in touch with your inner self. And you really, really enjoy new spiritual beginnings, like that death, rebirth, transformation, like new beginnings. Let's say that you were in a toxic relationship for years, new beginnings, moving into a new situation, new beginnings. That's Sagittarius, like traveling. And it's also super important to detach from worldly experiences and expectations. That's so huge. Detaching from worldly expectations. In Part of Fortune in Pisces, it's like you get such great joy from spiritual unity. So, and you're happiest when you're in compassionate service to humanity. Okay, Aries ruling the 5th house, and then also you have Neptune, the ruling planet, in your 1st house of the 4th. So, I would say that would, I'm curious to hear about your childhood and how that was. So Aries in the 5th house, that gives one lots of spontaneity when it comes to like creativity and making someone like usually just like initiate that. And with Mars, in the 9th house unaspected, like I imagine that you have no problem just boom when it comes to like that Mars and Leo, like just going after it whenever you have something that's fun. But like there is also those holdbacks. 6th house Taurus with Juno there, just like practical daily routine. Maybe there's animals in the mix, like really like and it makes you a very very good coworker, very reliable coworker, which Virgos are known to be. I already talked about Gemini in the 7th. You love communicating with your partner. You need to learn lessons around that. And you want an intellectually stimulating partner. And otherwise you might feel restless in the relationship. Cancer in the 8th house. This is just like very, very strong sexual intimacy. And you find that very nurturing and comforting. And you can also be very, very protective of any joint resources. And yeah, basically like the moon being in the 12th and the 8th house, being ruled by Cancer, that's kind of a tricky one. You have to think. I mean, it just speaks further to like the past life karma with if this moon is your mother, like to that basically. And like the cycle, karmic cycle. So Leo in the 9th house, obviously we have the Venus and Mars and the vertex there. That just gives you like a very fiery love to explore the world. Like you have all the fire signs in the fire houses, which is very awesome. And travel's fun. Like it just and you gain so much philosophy and so much of that one goal of yours to gain that inner child is through traveling and through taking risks, and joining different groups and stuff like that. So then Virgo ruling the 10th house, just hardworking, but also you can be like way too like high standards for yourself in terms of your work. Very critical and very exact in your profession, preferring order at work, and you would get recognized for your work for sure with Sun and Mercury in the 10th house, 100%. Mercury in the 10th house, it's like you can have Mercury in the 10th house. This is one thing I forgot to say. You can have like a communication career, a career that's like in communications or education, or something like where you're able to talk or research. But also you can, or not, but it's like even another cool thing about that is that you can be someone that has like two careers, like the hobby, passion that you want to one day turn into like a moneymaker, and then the moneymaker. So midheaven conjunct Pluto, I already talked about that. Midheaven in Libra, you like pleasant, you like beauty in your profession, harmony and balance has to be like in your environment. And then also social skills are very important in your chosen path. Even though but like the fact that you have and having like a harmonious work environment, but the fact that you have Moon in Scorpio, yeah, you can be. It doesn't mean you have to work in like behind the scenes, but like you definitely need to have time to yourself. And then Pluto there, that just makes you a boss, maybe like entrepreneur potentially, or someone who just like is really here to be powerful. I always bust out my Pluto book because it's in the 11th house. So Pluto's like where there's shadow. So there's definitely trauma around friends and groups of people, which relates to that Aquarius thing I was saying, the Black Moon Lilith. So like the highest destiny in this life, it's kind of like the North Node, but it's like where you have to really confront your shadow, is a lot to do with that and conditioning. So I'll just read it. This is like, I've had this since I was a baby astrologer. I wrote this all out in my hands. So the quest here is a radical shift away and this is from past lives, a radical shift away from the karmic past, from who they have been or from how others have seen them. And it's like, Aquarius, 11th house is seeking to liberate one from conditioning. So I want to reread that. A radical shift away from the karmic past, from who they have been or from how others have seen them. So it's like breaking away from that identity, right? Because that's Sun square. The nodes shows that you weren't true to yourself, whether it was forced or not forced in your past life. And so this is another downline I'm getting about the past life karma, is like either it was like forced on you, or you just like you just weren't true to your true self. And then you weren't also with your communication, your thinking, your speaking, you weren't true to that too. So there's a powerful need to detach from the external environment and social groupings in order to see those interactions with a new perspective. Sometimes we need to step out of our familiar routines to understand the patterns that play out in our lives. This can lead to resistance as it is such a high evolutionary intent. One fear is that going towards individualism will lead to isolation, which, you know, Scorpio Moon is totally cool with that, right? It likes being alone. This can be linked to traumatic memories of potentially being ostracized in past lives. And this is the South Node and North Node ruler, tell more. And the ruler of the South Node is Jupiter in the first house, which makes me, you know, think that, you know, you were a powerhouse. You know, you were definitely a powerhouse. And maybe people were intimidated by you and wanted to shut you up. That's kind of what I get. Ruler of the North Node, Mercury, is in retrograde. So now you have all these communication issues and speaking. It's tough. You might feel that by speaking your truth, like you might feel like you have to be really, really secretive about a bunch of stuff, and you don't. And that's like a huge karmic mission. So these issues need to be understood now. There's a need for alliances with like-minded people through groups or friendships. And I already told you about that thing to message me about in this life. The key with this placement is the urge to individuate, to become the person that one always wanted to be, free of past traumatic influences and conditioning factors. To the extent that a group supports this process, it is useful. But the point at which it begins to block this individualization process signals a problem. So it's super important to pick your groups and friends and stuff. One has to act on the impulse to free themselves from the past, as they may face alienation in the current life. The polarity point Leo, which is like the healing, which ironically you have 2 planets there, which is, this is going to be the last thing I say in this, or not last thing, but one of the last things I say in this reading, and this is going to be so cathartic. The polarity point is the healing, is the need to creatively self-actualize in order to express the potential to move beyond the disassociation produced by trauma into a more creative period of recovery. I'm repeating, the need to creatively self-actualize in order to express the potential to move beyond the disassociation produced by trauma, like, you know, where you're like, maybe you're forced into being a certain way, into a more creative period of recovery. The individual finding their so it's about you finding your individuality within groups that help you find your individuality, finding purely selfish impulse of creative evolution. So beautiful. Wow. Amazing reading. I'm not just like saying that about my skill. I'm just saying how it's all like the puzzles just connecting, like weaving together. I mean, like, wow. So, okay. 12th house ruled by Scorpio. That's just basically like you can fear the intensity of your own subconscious feelings, and really attempt to control them really tightly with the moon there. Obviously, there can be like lots of, in Saturn, lots of hidden fears and fear of the unknown and whatever is hidden, and like these phobias. So you may need to learn to express some of these like emotions in order to really dispel them. So it's like, that's a huge thing for you, is getting in touch with your emotions and speaking about them. But it's very difficult for you to feel safe about that. So yeah, so that's it. Hope you enjoy. This is amazing. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to read your chart. And yeah, like I said, you know, we'll have our follow-up, and I always suggest people, if they're interested, to do the current astrology reading. That's like, this one was like the book of your life. That one is a live reading, so we would be on like Zoom together or on a phone call, whatever. I either way, same for me. And that one we discuss like your current chapter, but like, let's do the follow-up first, and then you can decide if you want to do that. Anyways, thank you so much, and I'm off to bed. Ciao.